I'm going to put that there first, but it is at the bottom of the list. So let's go through the framework, and I'll tell you, these things are where you're going to spend most of your time. So first is the problem. Simple enough. You have someone sitting in front of you. You're pitching. What is the problem that your company solves? Second is the solution. Just as I mentioned, there's a problem. Your company is the solution. You need to explain that in your pitch deck. Next is the market. And this one is more just kind of validating, your expertise, your founders, co-founders' expertise, and who you guys are targeting. But again, each of these bullet points, you're going to spend a definitive amount of time here doing deep dives. Next is traction. Who are your customers? Now, this is a little harder for folks that are pre-revenue, but what I would say here is, okay, talk about who you want your customers to be, who you predict your customers will be. But for those that are already making money or have got pilots, this is huge. This just essentially just validates what your business is doing. Next is your product. If you're able to give, a 2 to 5 second video or some sort of snapshot of your product, not every time that you sit down with an investor, they're not going to be able to get hands-on. But if you can kind of give them a walkthrough of the customer journey and just what your product looks like, it really helps out. Next is competitors. The big thing here is, and one thing I've seen where people make a lot of mistakes, is they say, hey, we're the only one doing this. And that's like an instant red flag. So, and again, we'll get more into this as I show examples, but figure out who your competitors are and illustrate those in your deck. Because what you don't want is that investor to pull back and pull his phone out, his or her phone out, and try to figure out like, hey, who else is doing this? So again, solve that for them immediately. Next is your team. What are you asking for? We're raising a $500,000 round. We're raising $1 million round, $2 million round. And this is what it's going to do. This is what it's going to lead to. And to keep things simple, I would just say, hey, we have X amount of runway. We have 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. And if we are able to raise this money, we are then able to operate for X amount of months. So again, really just keeping things simple. So, so boom, here's the framework. And what I'm going to recommend to everyone is that for each of these bullet points, you and your team are spending at the minimum an hour, hour and a half doing deep dives on every single one of these. This is the hard work that comes in before you even start putting graphics on a deck. Because you want to hit all these points in the pitch, but you also want to be confident about what you're putting in there. You never want to, especially for a live pitch, there's going to be some questions coming back to you, and you want to ensure that you and your team have spent enough time doing deep dives on these to where any sort of follow-up questions, you're ready to answer them. So, so no, if there's no questions about this framework, I will kind of go into some examples. We'll talk about the problem, the solution, traction, competitors, and then the team. So those are the examples I'm going to bring today. So it looks like we have a hand raised. Anybody got a question so far? So,
It looks like we might have one question. Can you
Yeah.
guys see them?
Let's let it rip.
I'm seeing one question here, which is how much has been invested by Stadia so far in startups?
So we've invested in 48 companies so far. So it's about a 85 to 90% mix of, so we've got 85 or 90% that have gone through our accelerator program, and then we have a few direct investments. For the accelerator program, it's up to 100,000. One thing we do, we're not a cookie cutter organization. So we don't just do 100,000 across the board. We look at everyone's cap tables. We try to figure out what investment works best for each company. So if 25K makes sense for your company, that we don't follow your cap table, then that's what we do. So I don't have a solid figure on, hey, this is the exact dollar amount. One figure that we do put out there is that of the portfolio, they are 60 plus million in money raised so far amongst all the companies. So no, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I've got one other here talking about the framework. Where would you talk about the operational side of the business, how you're going to execute on the idea? Would that be the solution?
So the solution is, and again, I'll kind of go through it when I give the examples, but this is all working with each other.